3 spine-chilling true horror tales, unexplained terrifying encounters exposed from haunted depths. Emily stepped into her new home, a quaint little rental that seemed too good to be true. Fresh paint, a white picket fence, and neighbors who waved with smiles that felt as warm as the summer sun. But across the street, beneath the sweetness of those friendly faces, dark whispers twisted through the air. She couldn't shake the feeling this place had an unsettling aura, like the shadow of a predator lurking just out of sight. Late-night sounds flitted through the walls, sinister echoes of laughter that weren't noise, chilling her to the bone. Was it just her tired mind? Her imagination, spinning tales from the remnants of a bitter divorce? Or was there something more lurking within the frame of this fresh start? At night, the house creaked under a weight she couldn't identify, and when she closed her eyes she heard faint whispers mingling with the breeze, a soft chorus of despair. Each sound ignited phantom fears, reminding her of the life she desperately wanted to leave behind. Each night grew heavier, every flickering light felt alive, and in the distance, the chilling laughter played like an ominous refrain. Emily brushed it all aside until the locals mentioned the prior tenants, who had mysteriously vanished without a trace. That fact licked at her heels like cold air trailing into her soul. No one had the courage to speak about it openly, but Mr. Jenkins, the man with the too wide smile, knew more than he let on. Just odd circumstances, you know? A quick move, he had said, standing on his perfectly trimmed lawn, cookies in hand. But as the days passed, the cookie crumbs turned bitter in her mouth, and his grin sickened her stomach. How did he really feel about the whispers and shadows? Was he protecting her, or sealing her son's fate? One night, as Emily fetched milk for their cereal, the shadows outside deepened, stretching across the road like arms reaching out. That was when Noah went missing. Just a quick trip, how could he just vanish? Panic clawed at her throat as her heart raced like thunder. She sprinted through the streets, desperation clawing at her every step. And as she searched, she realized the neighborhood was not the haven she had believed. The houses, with their charming fronts, hid terrible histories behind closed doors, secrets that simmered in the silence. Mr. Jenkins was always watching, his eyes following her like a predator stalking prey. An overwhelming dread filled her as she noticed how the darkened streets twisted and curled back into themselves, secrets buried in every shadow. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she turned back towards home, dread collided with hope. Would she find him before it was too late? Would she even find out which were the real dangers? The minute hand ticked loudly in her ears, each second stretching further away from safety. The culmination of all her fears culminated in the shadows that flickered at the edge of the porch light. Could she trust her neighbors? Could she trust anyone in a town ensnared by so many untold horrors? Just then, laughter, a forcefully familiar sound, broke the tense air, echoing through the night. It curled around her heart, squeezing until she could barely breathe. Noah's laugh, but it felt twisted, wrong, echoing through a darkness she had yet to uncover. In that moment, Emily knew the shadows were not just a figment of her imagination, but a force begging to claim her son and her life. Where could they possibly hide? What truly lay beneath the community's warm veneer? Her pulse quickened, and she realized she was about to confront a darkness that might consume everything she held dear. Emily's breath quickened as she turned towards the sound, her heart pounding violently in her chest. The laughter, sweet and chilling, drifted from the shadows of the neighboring yard, suddenly feeling like a taunt rather than a comforting echo from her son. Panic surged anew, and she willed herself forward, feet moving faster than her mind could process. "Noah!" she called, forcing the name out despite the fear that gnawed at her throat. Silence settled, thick and heavy, as if the world itself had decided to hold its breath. She strained to listen, but the darkness swallowed her words whole. With desperate urgency, She crossed the street toward where the laughter had originated, a decrepit lilac bush partially obscuring a rusty fence. The hairs on the back of her neck prickled with an unsteady sensation. Were those eyes watching her? She peered around the bush, and what she saw made her stomach churn. Mr. Jenkins stood there, his grin too wide, his eyes glinting like polished stones. Behind him, shadowy forms flitted in and out of sight, writhing like phantoms. They danced around him, little voices muttering in an unintelligible language. "Emily," he called, "you should really come join us. We've been waiting for you." His voice was smooth, dripping with an eerie sweetness. She stumbled back, adrenaline kicking in as she turned to run, but not before catching sight of a flash of red near the porch that held the remnants of what could only be a child's toy. A small, red fire truck that once belonged to Noah. Hope and dread warred within her. "Emily," Jenkins taunted, stepping closer, moving unnaturally slow, as if savoring her terror. "No! Stay away from me!" she screamed, her voice cracking. She turned and fled, her feet pounding against the pavement, the echoes of screams mixed with that unsettling laughter chasing her, preventing her escape. She darted back into her home, slamming the door behind her. Heart racing, she leaned against it, desperately trying to calm her breath. The walls felt as they were closing in, the whispers ramping up, filling every crevice with despair. Outside, she could hear a chorus of giggles, the sound of little feet trampling over leaves, drawing closer. "Mommy!" The sweet, innocent voice broke through her haze. It was a sound that came like a stab to her heart. "Noah!" She rushed to the window, frantically peering into the darkness beyond, hoping to see the boy she loved more than anything. But the shadows seemed to fold in upon themselves, hungry for the light. "Mommy!" The voice came again, only now it was closer, closer. It sounded strange, not quite right. The laughter followed, echoing around her like a haunting tune. Despair gripped her as she fumbled for her phone, fingers trembling on the screen, ready to call for help. What could she tell them? A lost child in a neighborhood that felt like a trap? No, she had to find him herself. Gathering her resolve, she opened the door slowly, peering out into the suffocating night. The air felt electric, alive with something unknown. Each creak of the boards underfoot echoed ominously. As she stepped outside, a sudden chill swept through her, and the laughter grew louder. "Join us," Emily came the soft chants, blending with the wind. What had she stumbled into? Who were these shadows that played at the edge of her vision? With each step deeper into the darkness, she wondered, would she find Noah or become just another whisper in this cursed neighborhood? The night stretched on, a hellish trap tightening around her. Gritting her teeth, she pressed onward, determined to face the darkness head-on, but what lay ahead might change everything she believed about love, fear, and the price of survival. Emily's skin crawled as she stepped into the night, the darkness closing in around her like a living, breathing thing. Each sound seemed amplified: a rustle in the shrubs, a distant snap of a twig. She felt eyes, not just from the shadows but lurking just beyond her vision, guiding her toward the unknown. The laughter echoed through the air, sweet and haunting. It revolved around her like a sinister melody. "Mommy!" The voice called again, that fragile innocence ripping through her heart. It couldn't be Noah. It sounded different. Distorted. "Where are you?" she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. "Noah!" She tried again, louder this time, but her voice felt weak, swallowed by the looming darkness. A flicker in the corner of her eye yanked her attention: a shadow darting behind the old oak tree at the end of the block, its gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The chill in the air sharpened, biting into her skin as she stumbled down the street. "Noah!" she yelled, desperation and terror pushing her forward. She focused on the laughter, letting it lead her, despite the wrongness of it all. Every step felt heavier, as if she were wading through thick mud. The laughter morphed, swelling into a chaotic chorus that filled her head, each giggle laden with malice. The shadows around her seemed to stretch and twist, waiting. Watching. Suddenly, Emily froze. A group of children stood on the old sidewalk, their backs turned to her. Shadows danced at their feet, spiraling and flickering in the dim light of the street lamp. "Hey!" Emily shouted, panic lacing her voice. "Have you seen my son?" They didn't turn. "Join us," Emily, one of them whispered, the statement chilling, sent shivers racing down her spine. It was definitely not Noah's voice. "Get away from me!" she screamed. When they finally turned, her blood ran cold. Their faces were pale, eyes sunken and vacant, mouths splitting into unnaturally wide grins. "Play with us," another child said, her voice sweet yet void of warmth. "We've been waiting. Forever." "No!" Emily screamed as the children began to inch closer in a deliberate, synchronized manner. "Where's my son? Don't you want to play?" They echoed, the dissonance of their voices vibrating through her. The shadows around them pulsed, dark energy radiating off the figures like a predator circling its prey. Emily felt an overwhelming sense of dread. This wasn't the neighborhood she knew. This was a nightmare, a twisted carnival where innocence had been corrupted. She turned to run but stumbled sideways, crashing against the wrought iron gate of Jenkins' property. With a frantic glance, she could see him standing in the moonlight, a malevolent smile spreading across his face, the shadows swirling around him. "You've come to join the fun," he called out, the invitation laced with sinister intent. "I need my son," Emily shouted back, her voice shaking. But there was no response, just the guttural laughter of those children creeping closer, jaws stretching impossibly wide. In that instant, Emily realized she might not find Noah at all. What if the shadows wanted more than just to play? Heart pounding, she turned again, edging towards the yard, desperate to escape the tightening circle of laughter. But as she pushed through the gate, a hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. "Where do you think you're going? The game has just begun." Emily looked down, taking in the ghastly sight of a child, one of them. Dark teeth gleamed in the moonlight, sharp and jagged, and a wave of terror crashed over her, and just like that she knew she had become part of their game, her own survival hanging by a thread. As Emily struggled to break free, the shadows closed in, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. She realized she wasn't just fighting for Noah. She was fighting for her very soul as darkness enveloped her. One thought burned in her mind: how could she escape the game before it was too late? Emily's heart raced as the child's grip tightened around her wrist. She felt her pulse in her temples, each throb a reminder of the dark game she was thrust into. Panic surged, igniting her instincts. She kicked backward, desperate to free herself from the demonic child's grasp. "Let me go!" she screamed, twisting and pulling away with all her strength. The child's laughter twisted unnaturally, blending with the others, a grotesque symphony encircled her. The shadows rippled, pulsing against the night sky, like a living entity. The moment she broke free, Emily stumbled onto the path, painfully aware of the eyes watching from the darkness. Each step felt like a race against time, but she knew instinctively there was no escape. Not here. Not now. "Mommy!" A voice called, eerily sweet, echoing through the air. It melded with the evil laughter, reverberating inside her head like a private torment. A cruel reminder of what she fought to save. "Noah!" she shouted, but the name sounded foreign, swallowed by the darkness. She pressed forward, squinting into the shadows, searching for a sign of him. Then she saw it, a faint glow a flicker in the distance. Hope ignited in her chest. "Noah!" she cried again, racing toward it, ignoring the creeping dread clawing at her. But the warmth of hope faded as she neared the light. It was not the bright beacon she had hoped for. Instead, it emanated from a circle of mist swirling around the children who had cornered her moments ago. Their faces were now more grotesque, eyes shimmering like black voids, mouths stretching wide in sickening anticipation. "Come play with us, Emily," they chimed, voices intertwining like a chorus of death. She stopped in her tracks, realizing that the light wasn't coming from another world, it came from them, a sinister allure designed to reel her in. "Where's Noah?" she demanded, a tremor threading through her voice. "He's here, probably playing hide and seek," a child said, tossing their head back to laugh. The laughter was high-pitched, filled with a manic thrill, like a carnival barker luring in unsuspecting guests. With renewed adrenaline, she turned to run, but an icy wind seemed to materialize, wrapping around her legs, tripping her. She tumbled to the ground, her breath hitching in panic. The shadows swarmed closer, tightening their noose. "Help me," she pleaded, barely above a whisper, but the words hung in the air, heavy and futile. Something deeper the shadows seemed alive, humming with cruelty, feeding off her fear. Suddenly a figure appeared, stepping out from the swirling mist. It was Jenkins, his smile wider than before, illuminated eerily under the dim streetlight. He approached, arms outstretched, as if to embrace her. "Join the fun, Emily. You can't lose what you never had," he said, his voice low and inviting, yet filled with a chilling promise. "No! I want my son!" she shouted, desperation pouring from her soul, clawing to the surface. The shadows throbbed with glee, resonating with a sound that filled the void around her. "Let me show you something," Jenkins said, his voice smooth like silk, laced with a terrifying allure. Before she could react, a warm hand grasped her shoulder. Another child, their eyes wide and pleading, as if they were not in on the sinister game. "Help us," it whispered. "Please." For a fleeting moment, a fragment of clarity ignited in Emily's mind. Could there be a way to save them both? But another wave of malevolent laughter crashed into her as Jenkins leaned closer, darkness coiling around him. "You think this is a choice? The game is all that exists now," he hissed. Emily's heart sank. She was caught in a nightmare with no way to break free. The children, Jenkins, the shadows, they were all part of it, a sick puzzle designed to ensnare her. As despair clawed at her throat, she took a deep breath. She had to try. With every shred of willpower, she pushed herself to rise, casting one last glance toward the glowing children. "Noah!" she called, the name tinged with motherly desperation, but the darkness laughed back. "You must play to find him," and in that moment she understood, the game had rules, and bending them might just be her only hope. But what if the price was more than she could afford? Emily felt her heart thundering as she grappled with her decision. No way could she play alone. Not with these children, not with Jenkins, whose sinister smile illuminated the encroaching darkness like a predator eyeing its prey. She stumbled back, the shadows curling hungrily around her feet, but there was no running this time. "Game on, Emily," Jenkins crooned, arms still outstretched. The fog thickened, cloaking everything in an oppressive gloom. The children snickered, their dark laughs wrapping around her like barbed wire, and ahead of her, the glowing circle pulsed steadily, a maddening heartbeat. "Let us play," a voice echoed, making her shiver. It was one of the children, a distorted version of innocence. Their faces twisted, bodies jerking as though animated by strings pulled by unseen hands. The air crackled with tension, the atmosphere heavy enough to suffocate her. Then came a soft whisper, insidious, "Choose." Emily's mind raced. She looked at the faces swaying slightly, a morbid dance of anticipation. They were waiting. Waiting for her to decide. She knew she had to stall, to think clearly. "Hide and seek?" she said, pushing the words through clenched teeth. A chorus of eerie giggles erupted as Jenkins clapped his hands, the sound sharp like shards of glass. "Brilliant! You've chosen well," he announced, delight glimmering in his dark eyes. "But remember, in this game, losing means something entirely different." He gestured toward the children, casting a long shadow. "They're your seekers. Find your son before they catch you, or else." As he spoke, the kids' grins widened impossibly, revealing rows of jagged teeth gleaming white against their nightmarish appearance. Terror coursed through her veins like ice water. "No! I won't let you 10 seconds to hide," Jenkins declared, cutting her off. "And then the fun begins." Emily's instincts kicked in. She scanned the vacant landscape, searching for anything to shield her. To hide her from the eyes that wanted her, from the laughter that pierced her soul. Desperate, she plunged into the nearby thicket, heart racing, stomach twisting as whispered taunts echoed through the trees. "Found you!" A child's voice sang out, teasing, just beyond the thicket. Emily stifled a gasp, ducking deeper into the bushes. Her thoughts raced to Noah. Where was he? Was he safe? Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the sinister symphony surrounding her. Moments felt like hours. She dared to breathe, hoping the shadows would drift away, that Jenkins and his ghoulish playmates would tire of the game. A rustle drew her attention, and she peeked through the foliage, spotting several children moving in a strange, synchronized manner, eyes scanning. They played their roles with chilling precision, like sentient puppets under Jenkins' command. "Come find me, Mommy!" the taunting voice trilled again. It was Noah. Emily's heart raced anew, splitting between the need to hide and the desperate urge to find him. Then she recalled the child from before, the one who had pleaded for help. Was it true? Were they all trapped, just like her? A sudden resolve fired up inside her. She couldn't leave them. She wouldn't. Taking a deep breath, she pushed aside fear and stood. "I'm coming for you!" she shouted, louder than she intended, surprise rippling through the air. Those seeking her stopped, their gaze piercing, intrigued but calculating. The laughter died down, replaced by a heavy silence. "You found us!" one of the children squealed, stepping forward, eyes glinting with both excitement and malice. Emily felt the shadows closing in, but in that moment of horror, clarity enveloped her. "If I'm it," she began, and conversation snapped around her, chaos reigniting. Gripped by urgency, she just wanted to bring them with her. Who were they? Who had they lost? Would they reveal the way to Noah? And then the whispers started again, filling her mind. "What will you risk to save your own?" With the heavy weight of the decision sinking in, she realized there was no turning back. Not now. Not ever. But was the price of truth higher than she dared to pay? The silhouettes loomed, hunger drawing closer. Would playing their sick game lead her to Noah or become her ultimate downfall? Emily's pulse quickened, the children's eyes now all fixed on her, shimmering with a wild intensity. She had thrown down the gauntlet, and now she had to play, not just for herself, but for Noah and the trapped souls caught in Jenkins' web. The laughter echoed creepily through the thicket, each note twisting into a melody of despair. "I'll find you all," she declared, although uncertainty clawed at her throat. The children merely tilted their heads in unison, skeletal smiles stretching wider. Jenkins stepped back, folding his arms, the gloom deepening around him. "Then let the game truly begin," he snapped his fingers, and the children moved like clockwork, scattering into the darkness, leaving only silence behind. Emily felt a chill wrap around her. Within her heart, panic screamed for her to run, but her instincts yelled louder to push forward. She defied Noah, no matter the cost. The night was thick, swallowing sound and light. Emily crept forward, feeling the damp earth squish beneath her feet. "Noah!" she called softly, a plea echoing into the void. "Where are you, baby?" The dense fog curled tighter, and the air grew colder. Shapes danced at the edges of her vision, twisting shadows that flickered and vanished. Every rustling leaf felt like a call for attention, urging her deeper into the woods she no longer recognized. The children's whispering voices taunted her, their intentions impossible to decipher. Then a flicker of movement caught her eye, just a glimpse, an eerie silhouette darting between the trees. "Is that you, Noah?" she whispered, desperation bleeding into her tone. She hurried after it, but the figure only danced just out of reach, drawing her further into the maze. "Come play with us," the children sang, their glee pulsing like a heartbeat in her ears. "Or lose your way." Emily swatted at the air, as if trying to dispel their malicious laughter. Heart thundering, she pressed on. She stumbled through clumps of brambles and dead leaves, every prickle setting her nerves on fire. Time felt fluid, twisted, a slow drag that threatened to snap the fragile thread of her resolve. "Mommy!" The call rang again, crystal clear but haunting. Was it Noah? It felt real, but deep inside dread slithered. Would Jenkins use her love against her? What game were they playing now? "Hang on, baby! I'm coming!" she yelled, her voice shattering the oppressive silence. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered through the night, echoing off the trees. It was a child, a terrifying wail that froze her in place. Emily's heart squeezed painfully. It could be Noah, or was it another trap? The knowledge slashed through her. They played by a different set of rules here, in this nightmare. She stepped back, ice-cold fear curling around her spine. The children were hungry for fear, and her resolve faltered. What if he's in danger? The thought clawed at her, raw and insistent. Just then, Jenkins' silhouette emerged from the mist like a dark wave crashing down upon her sanity. "What will you choose, Emily?" he asked, voice silky as shadows cloaked him. "Your son or the truth?" Those words wormed into her mind, twisting her sentiment like a knife. Emily braced, realization dawning as she faced the nameless horrors. If the truth set her free, what would it cost? As the laughter crescendoed, embracing the night, Emily finally felt the gravity of the game. She clawed at her thoughts, trembling against the encroaching darkness. "What do you want?" she shouted, anger mixing with defiance. Laughter echoed around her, circling close, drawing tighter. "We want to play," they chanted. "Forever." And then complete silence fell. One child stepped forward from the shadows, face familiar yet twisted. "Mommy, are you ready to find out?" The world spun as she stared at the child, realizing with horror it was Noah yet not. Emily's throat constricted, eyes wide with the calamitous reality of a choice laid bare before her. What kind of mother would she prove to be? Was there truly a way to save them, or were they forever lost to the darkness? With every breath, the weight bore down. Harder. And then she heard it, a soft, sinister whisper weaving through the stillness. "Choose wisely, or lose everything." As haunting figures encircled her, she knew the next moment might erase the very essence of her being. What was she willing to sacrifice in the name of love? With her heart pounding, she took a step forward into the dark, leaving her fate in the hands of unknown horrors. Would she save her son or become trapped in their nightmare forever? The darkness throbbed with a pulse, the air thick with an unspoken challenge. Emily's heart raced as she stood facing Noah, this strange version of him, eyes glistening like polished stones, devoid of warmth. All the love she felt twisted into a fraying rope of panic, and she could hardly breathe under the suffocating dread. "Mommy, are you ready to find out?" he repeated, but now his voice was layered, a chorus of echoes. Each word was a ghost, wrapping around her heart like cold fingers. "What have they done to you?" she whispered, fighting tears. Noah's smile, too wide, too sharp, sent a jolt through her. "They just want to play, Mommy. Come join us." The clearing around them began to shift. What once felt like a forest turned into a twisted carousel, vines curling like fingers, branches moving like they had minds of their own, drawing closer. Emily's skin crawled. She didn't see the other children anymore, but she could feel them lurking, watching, hungry. "Stop it!" she shouted, the defiance clawing its way up her throat. "This isn't a game. Let him go." The laughter returned, a cacophony that spiraled into madness, wrapping around her ears. "Noah is just fine. He likes it here, don't you, sweetheart?" "Yeah." It bubbled up from him, too happy, too deep. "I play all day. You should too." Her heart twisted painfully as she felt the weight of the decision crushing her. "No. I won't play your games. Then you'll lose." The voice morphed into something sinister, all mischief stripped away, revealing a hatred that chilled her to the bone. Before she could react, the ground beneath her quivered like a creature awakening from slumber. Shadows swelled and writhed, creeping toward her from every direction. The children's whispers rose into an urgent crescendo, drowning her resolve. "We want to take you away. Forever." Emily staggered back, panic igniting her fight or flight response. The truth loomed larger than life, monstrous and cruel. The cost of saving her son might mean sacrificing herself. "Noah!" She lunged forward, desperate fingers grasping at the familiar yet alien face. "Listen to me. They'll consume you. But I'm not scared." He laughed, the sound echoing in places it shouldn't. "You should join us. You'll be happy." As her fingers brushed his cheek, an icy jolt shot through her, a connection more sinister than love. It felt as if the life force was siphoning from her, pouring into him, into the darkness. Stop! Emily screamed, pulling her hand back as if scalded. The laughter erupted into a frenzy, and for a sickening moment, every child surrounded her. Faces twisted and contorted, eyes burning with a hunger that promised madness. Choose the truth, Mommy! Or join our game! It's not a choice! She cried, struggling against an unseen force that tugged at her very essence. Emily strained against it, but the weight of despair anchored her in place. Mommy Noah's voice flickered like a faulty bulb. You'll come back to me, right? Of course! She insisted, heart racing, torn between love and fear. But doubt gnawed at the edges of her mind like a relentless predator. Do I even know who he is anymore? She stumbled back, her foot caught in a clump of shadow. A child darted to her left, pulling her attention away. There it was again, a flicker of movement, the whisper of something lurking just out of sight, urging her deeper. Realizing she was losing precious moments, she spun back to Noah, eyes wide with desperation. I'll save you! Just hang on. But his smile wavered, as if cracking under pressure. You'll have to choose, Mommy. They won't wait forever. The shadows surged forward, tangling around her legs, as sinister whispers clawed at her sanity. Every breath became a struggle against the grasping darkness. Then everything stilled. The whispers faded into a deathly hush, and in that chilling quiet, Emily understood the gravity of her situation. Time had become her greatest adversary. Choosing the wrong path could mean losing her son forever. Time is running out, Emily, Jenkins' voice floated in the stillness, a taunt laced with the scent of decay. What? Will you decide? In that moment, the question hung heavily in the air, more terrifying than anything that lurked in the shadows. Would love triumph, or would she surrender to the dark? The woods seemed to close in, shadows reaching for her as Emily braced herself. I'll choose! She shouted into the darkness, though the fear gnawed at her resolve. But could she find the truth in a maze of lies? As she took another step, memories of moments spent with Noah flooded her mind, and the forest trembled in anticipation. Emily's mind raced, images of Noah's laughter mixed with the darkness consuming them. Time felt elastic, stretching around her as she fought against the encroaching shadows. I'll choose the truth! She screamed, the words turning to ice in her throat. But what was truth? The memories came rushing hard, snippets of laughter, bedtime stories, and innocent bedtime prayers. She fought to hold on to those fragments, but they twisted into grotesque illusions, morphing with the shadows. Was this really her son? The ground beneath her pulsed ominously as she felt hands grappling at her soul, urging her to give in. The faces of the children glowed with a malevolent hunger, their mouths open, inviting her into their world. Join us, Mommy! They sang in discordant harmony, their eyes reflecting the depths of a void where hope was swallowed whole. No! She roared, shaking her head violently as though she could rid herself of the nightmare. You're not real! You're just shadows. She blinked back tears, conjuring strength from deep within. Desperation ignited her resolve. She had to fight. For Noah. Noah! She shouted again, the sound sharper now. Suddenly his face flickered like a candle struggling to stay alight. The smile that once edged on joy now waned, a mere shadow of what it had been. Please! The darkness lurched, seizing the moment of weakness. Tendrils lashed out, coiling around her ankles like serpents, dragging her toward the abyss. It felt like the forest had become alive, each rustle and creak a sinister whisper of rebellion against her. But she wouldn't give up. Emily pulled in a breath, staving off panic as she remembered her son's heartbeat, the way he squealed with delight when he spun in circles. Noah, I know you're in there. You're stronger than them. A flicker of recognition sparked in her son's eyes, but it was barely a flame amidst the consuming dark. Mommy, help me! The words tugged at her heart, wavering against the tide of chaos. Could he even hear her? The laughter around her grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. You can't save him! A voice hissed from the depths of the shadows, low and deadly. He belongs to us now. They were closing in, the forest feeling smaller, suffocating with oppressive malice. Choking on fear, Emily felt a prickle of resolve rise, hard as steel. It was time to confront what lay hidden in the dark. She had to enter the nightmare, become part of the game, to find a way in. "All right," she shouted, surprising even herself. "I'll play your game." The words slipped from her lips, a gamble that felt heavier than any choice she'd ever had to make. The shadows hesitated for the briefest moment. "Welcome, Mommy!" The chorus of voices harmonized, echoing with glee as the shadows retracted just enough for her to step into the center of their circle. Emily's heart thundered against her ribs. "But know this," she said, voice trembling but fierce, "I will not lose." As her challenge hung in the air, the darkness stirred with anticipation, swirling ominously around her. She felt the ground shift again, the whispers rising to a fever pitch, each child's face contorting in the grim delight of the macabre game they played. "Noah!" she yelled, desperate and fierce, ready to fight against the tide that pulled them apart. Every heartbeat was a promise, she would find him. "I'm coming for you. I'll find you in this mess." With that bold declaration, the shadows recoiled momentarily, giving Emily a glimpse of the small figure wrapped in darkness, Noah's face barely visible. A fracture in the void, brief as a heartbeat. Then, without warning, the shadows surged forward again. They enveloped her, pulling her into a labyrinthine corridor of fear, echoing with the cries of the lost. Emily felt the chill crawling down her spine. The laughter faded, replaced by a quiet so profound, it felt alive. "What now, Mommy?" A croaky whisper slithered through the void. "Are you ready to discover what lurks in the darkness?" The chills seeped into her bones as she realized this was just the beginning. She clenched her fists, determination mingling with terror. A choice had been made, but battles were far from over. In the heart of the shadows, something stirred, shifting toward her. A secret long buried was about to awaken. What horrors awaited? Would she be ready to face them, or would the darkness consume her whole? The air thickened around Emily, suffocating and cold. The shadows seemed to breathe, their rhythm pulsing like a heartbeat, echoing in her ears. Every whisper felt like fingers brushing against her skin, each sound a reminder of what she stood to lose. The darkness twisted and contorted, led by her growing dread. Memories of laughter clashed with the haunting emptiness that now surrounded her. So many lost, so many trapped like Noah. She had to push past the fear. There was truth somewhere in this chaos, and she had to uncover it before it consumed her. The corridor unraveled into an endless expanse, walls shifting in shades of pitch black. Glimpses of twisted faces formed in the shadows, wailing in despair. They reached out to her, desperate eyes pleading for release, but she couldn't let their agony penetrate her resolve. "Not now. Show me!" Emily shouted, her voice ringing out, a threat of defiance. The walls trembled as if the darkness recognized the challenge. "Show me where Noah is!" Silence fell, heavier than the oppressive layer of darkness surrounding her. A moment stretched into what felt like hours, and for a brief flicker, hope ignited within her chest. Then, slowly, a figure began to emerge from the shadowy depths. "Noah," she whispered, heart racing as the outline of her son became clearer, yet something was wrong. The light around him flickered, revealing not just Noah but a multitude of lost children, their faces grotesque and warped. Their eyes blank, hollow pits begging for mercy, crying out in unison, "Mommy!" But their voices were not as she remembered. They were edged with something sharp, laced with despair. The warmth she once felt was replaced with an icy grip of panic wrapping around her throat. "No!" The words were clawing up her throat. "You're monsters! You're not him!" They recoiled slightly, the shadows seeping back, allowing more light to break through the void. She could see Noah again, but he was trapped, tangled in tendrils of darkness that wrapped tightly around his small frame. "Mommy!" he cried, his voice no longer full of innocence. "What have you done to him?" She screamed, the weight of dread pulling her down. "Not us," the chorus of voices hissed, a cacophony breaking through the noise. "We've only shown him the truth." The shadows flickered with malice. "Mommy!" Noah shouted again, but this time, it was soaked in despair, not the joy of her memories. "You have to let me go. Join us." Emily felt her heart crumble as the reality sank in. This was a game, yes, but the stakes were much worse than she had anticipated. There was truth buried in the shadows, but it came at a cost. Did she dare? "Noah, I'm here to save you!" she yelled, willing every ounce of strength into her voice. They wouldn't take him from her without a fight. But the shadows shifted, dark laughter ringing through her ears. "Save him?" they echoed, "or save yourself?" The very air seemed to vibrate as if the darkness was contemplating its next move. Emily could feel something malignant rising, pulsing with overwhelming chaos, a force that craved something deeper. Her heartbeat thundered, and with it, a morbid fear washed over her. What if part of her was already lost? Suddenly, the ground beneath her shook, ripping the world apart as she fought to grasp onto reality. The shadows pressed in close again, eager, hungry. She staggered, nearly falling against unseen barriers that seemed to close in. The laughter grew louder. Would she be lost forever, consumed by the very darkness she sought to defy? Or could she snatch back Noah from the jaws of despair? She felt the air shift. Maybe the answer lay deeper in the void, buried beneath her darkest fears. And as the shadows swirled around her, one question echoed in the dark: what are you willing to sacrifice? Emily trembled at the thought. It was time to dig into the dark, to meet the shadows head-on. Would she find her son, or would she lose herself in the abyss? The deeper she went, the more terror loomed. But there was no turning back now. Not when Noah was at stake. With determination bolstered by fear, she took a step forward into the darkness, where unseen horrors awaited her next move. Emily's heart hammered in her chest, her breath a tight whisper against the oppressive darkness. Shadows writhed around her, hungry and eager, but she was done running. She had come too far to back down now. "I will save you, Noah!" she called, her voice breaking through the layer of chilling laughter that tangled through the air. The shadows danced, twisting in anticipation as more whispers broke loose, like a swarm eager for their next feast. "You think you can save him? You belong to us now," they hissed, their voices a sinister symphony that scraped against her sanity. But beneath the terror, a flicker of clarity bloomed. Noah was out there, and she had to trust her love, her bond with him. She closed her eyes for a moment, recalling memories that felt like sunlight, the warmth of his laughter, the way he snuggled close during their bedtime stories, the hope evident in his wide smile. She wouldn't let that be snuffed out. Taking a deep breath, she shouted, "I choose love! I choose my son!" The ground rumbled beneath her, shadows seething in response, the darkness around them pulsed with anger. But Emily stood firm, feeling an inner strength surge, igniting every corner of her being. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, as if they were frightened of her declaration. A shimmering light flickered into being amidst the gloom. It felt like a soft caress against her skin, reassuring and bright. Emily seized that warmth. "Noah!" she cried again, charging forward into the light. In the distance, a shape flickered in and out of view, familiar yet fraught with dread. "Mommy!" The voice rang clear, and she knew it was him. The hope churning within her exploded. She raced toward the outline, the darkness tearing at her heels, desperate to keep her contained. "Noah!" She broke through the tendrils as they lashed out, pushing her backward. But she pressed onward, her determination unyielding. As she neared the figure, she saw the real Noah struggling against the dark restraint that held him captive. "I'm here! I won't let them take you!" The shadows gripped tighter, wrapping layers of despair around his tiny frame. Tears pooled in her eyes, but she blinked them away, focusing solely on him. "You have to fight, sweetheart. Remember our songs? Remember how brave you are?" His eyes flickered with some recognition, but the shadows gurgled with malicious laughter. "You can't save him, Emily!" they screeched, recoiling at her growing light. "Noah, close your eyes. Hold on to my voice," she shouted, reaching for him through the fog of darkness. Then she gathered every ounce of strength. You are not alone. You are loved more than anything, and that love will break these chains. As she spoke, a brilliant light erupted from her heart, shattering the shadows around them like glass, illuminating the night. The darkness hissed and flailed, screeching in agony as her love poured forth uncontained. Noah! Take my hand! The darkness recoiled one last time, fighting against the light as it dimmed, shimmering like a star fighting against the night. With her heart open, Emily felt a gentle warmth as Noah reached out, his small hand barely able to grasp hers through the tendrils that held him. The moment their skin touched, a surge of energy pulsed through her, an unbreakable bond forged from love washing over them both. The shadows writhed violently, gasping, shrinking back, dissolving into nothingness under the radiant connection between mother and son. Emily felt strength swell alongside hope, pushing away the last of the encroaching darkness. Noah! Stay close to me, she urged, pulling him towards the light. As they broke through, Emily felt the last traces of dread falling away behind them. They stumbled into a stunning clearing, the silhouettes of children dissolving into the night, their laughter fading into echoes that provided little comfort. They were free. Noah. Emily cradled him close, whispering fiercely, "You're safe. You're back." The tears flowed now, relief washing over her exhausted body as she held him tight, feeling his warmth radiating against her skin. He looked just like her son again, a smile creeping back to his familiar features. "Mommy, I was so scared," he said, voice trembling but laced with the innocence she fought so hard to preserve. A sob tore from her throat. "I know, my love. I know. I'll always come for you. I promise." As they embraced, a sudden silence fell through the night. Emily turned and glanced at the remnants of the shadows that had haunted them, just fading figments swirling into nothing. The neighborhood loomed behind them, no longer the charming facade it once seemed. But Emily felt a sense of empowerment wash over her, a new beginning flickering just beyond the darkness. They stepped away from the haunted depth, hand in hand. A long road loomed ahead, but she learned the most critical lesson of all. She had the strength to face any shadows that threatened to swallow them again. Emily glanced back at the neighborhood, catching a hint of the moonlight revealing a familiar, sickening smile from Jenkins, but she didn't flinch. They had emerged victorious, against all odds. And as they walked away, ready to leave their past behind, one thing was certain: through love, they would conquer any darkness that dared to creep into their lives in the future. Stay strong. This is your moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive story. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm. And flood the comments with your thoughts about this ending. You might just have the theory that cracks the code. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need this conclusion in their lives. Let us spread the word together.